Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unleashed with me, Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. Today, I am joined by my friend Cory Brewer from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty to break down the legal and practical foundation of a model bathroom policy that was able to be introduced just last week in a small rural community in New Richmond, Wisconsin. This community just became a national story. They didn't want to be in the national spotlight, but what happened in their community necessitated it because there are so many communities like it across this country where parents and community members and grandparents believe that the woke nonsense that they see on TV isn't going to happen where they live. It's not going to be with their children. And they were surprised to learn that there was a de facto bathroom policy which allowed males to use the female bathrooms and changing areas of the girls. And again, this wasn't set up in a formal policy. Like I've said, they didn't have the guts to do that. They used language enacted in 2022 in non-discrimination where they inserted gender identity. They used that as the basis to form this so-called policy. And what ended up happening is girls are being sent to use the custodial bathrooms or the nurses' bathrooms, these single stall areas that are difficult to get to, while this one boy can use any bathroom that he wants, any female bathroom. And what ends up happening is that there are no female spaces. There are men's bathrooms, there is this gender neutral space, and then there are stalls for the girls. So hi, Cory, after my long opening monologue, thanks for joining. And
Yes, of course.
I wanted you here to discuss a solution. So I outlined a problem, but let's hear about a solution. And it's this model policy that was developed by the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty.
Yeah, thank you. I think, we could go on and on about the problem. Unfortunately, the only thing I'll add is that while we're seeing this problem in New Richmond, parents should ask about this no matter where you are in the country, because whether you're in an urban area, rural area, you don't know what's going on at your school. Like Scarlett said, this wasn't a policy in writing, but it has been allowed for years. So parents ask, try to find out what's going on in your local school district. But I think where we are today is there is a solution to this. And I want to start by acknowledging something, Scarlett, you said too, because I feel that many school boards are being told that there is one answer to this question. There's one answer, that the law is clear, it's black and white. The state and federal law says we must allow boys to use the girls' bathrooms, or we must allow transgender students to use whatever bathroom conforms to their gender identity at any given time. And the law is not that clear. And the reason why I think this is a massive problem is because school boards, you're the local elected officials. Your legal counsel should be giving you a full picture of the law, and then you make the decision. Acknowledge there's risk on both sides here. The bottom line is there's risk on both sides. And the other thing that I really want to emphasize, like Scarlett said, these Biden Title IX regulations, they've been vacated. A federal court vacated these nationwide, which has the effect of essentially making it as if they were never in place to begin with. So that's important. And I also think it's confusing to school board members. And what happened now that these have been vacated is that the operational federal regulations for Title IX are the Trump 2020 regulations. That has the force of law right now. And the Trump administration has also said that they are going to enforce Title IX and any other federal law with the understanding that sex means male and female, boy and girl, period, and that it is not something that one can change. So the other important thing about Title IX is that It expressly permits schools to maintain separate bathrooms, locker rooms, and showers on the basis of sex. It's right there in the text of the Code of Federal Regulations. This is permitted by federal law. So if there's nothing else listeners take away today, I want you to know that that's in the Title IX regulations, and this isn't black and white.
Yes. So, and I'm going to give you some quotes of a conversation that I was made aware of by a mom, several moms, when their daughters went to the high school administrators to complain about the presence of this male in the female bathrooms. And these are some direct quotes. And so it said that now here's an administrator. It doesn't solve people being uncomfortable and things like that. But what we can't do and what we can do are dictated by the law. And goes on to say that when you notice a student that makes you uncomfortable, you can come down here. We have a bathroom, meaning come to the main office, which for these students would mean to cross across the entire high school campus and go to the main office. And that there is very little time between classes. So if these female students need to use the bathroom, they're going to have to walk across the school, go down to the main office. Then they're going to have to say, oh, I have to use the bathroom. Then someone is going to have to grab the keys and let them into a custodial bathroom, to a nurse's bathroom, or to one of other 4 single stall areas. This is a time-consuming process, meaning the girls are going to miss class. When the girls said that, they're told, well, we'll give you a pass. We'll give you a tardy pass. So the girl says, this sucks. This policy sucks. And I agree, it sucks. And the administrators went on to say, yeah, we know. It kind of does, doesn't it? But don't you want to be nice? We should be nice. And you know what? Our hands are tied. That's the law. So here, you get to use the janitor's bathroom, and the boy can use your bathroom. And isn't that great? Didn't we come together in a nice compromise? And I say no. I say that is not an acceptable compromise.
I agree. I think it's totally backwards. When I first heard that, what you described, that it was the girls being told to leave their own bathroom, and not the one student identifying as transgender being given a separate space, that I think not only is it morally backwards, girls deserve privacy, safety, having that space for themselves. I mean, one parent came up and spoke during public comment at the school board meeting, and I, as a mom, as a girl, I found this really powerful actually. She's like, look, you might go into the bathroom, use the bathroom, wash your hands, come out, check your hair, whatever. But these are high school girls. Sometimes you need to go just be alone or have a cry, or like things are going on during the day. Girls should have that space, and any girl understands that. Okay, so that's just as a practical matter. But in terms of the law, Title IX, I think it's really important. Like I mentioned, there's that one regulation that expressly permits separate bathrooms, but beyond the bathroom issue explicitly, this law was intended to provide equal opportunity for women and girls in educational programs and activities. If it's only the girls being told, oh, you get to leave your bathroom if you're uncomfortable, you get to wait in line for the single stall, oh, you might miss class, but we'll give you a note and we won't hold it against you. They shouldn't have to miss class. Why is it only the girls missing class and going across the school and waiting in lines to use the single stall bathroom? These are things that we're really concerned about as a legal matter.
Yes, and we could talk, we've had a lot of discussion with parents about case law. And before this big explosive school board meeting, which we aired on our feed, and I've talked about this. So if you want to watch a 4-hour school board meeting, you're really interested. It is an interesting case study because you've got an hour-long opening where the attorney for the school district explains all of this legal reasoning behind their decision. And I think you're right that the lawyer did not present the full picture. He presented one side, but he didn't say, now here is an alternate view. You could get sued right here, but there's another risk. you might get sued by some of the parents in this crowd, in which there were hundreds, who are claiming that their daughter's Title IX rights were violated. And they can make an equally good case against the school district. So the school district is left to weigh and look at the evidence and think what is best for our community. And the community is saying we would like our daughters protected, and we think that there are viable options for this other student. There are these single stall spaces, so why not have this one student go to the single stall spaces and the 300 plus other girls just be free to use their spaces without this apprehension that there's going to be a boy in there?
Yeah, it's not discriminatory, it's not hateful to ask a boy who identifies as a girl to use a separate bathroom. This is common sense, in my opinion. You should not be kicking every single girl out of their bathroom. Okay, they're not being kicked out, but they're being told, okay, if you're uncomfortable with a boy in your bathroom, then you can use this other bathroom. Like, this is common sense. Just that other student deserves dignity and respect as well. The other student can have a separate changing area, a separate bathroom. I don't know exactly what, well, I do know why. I think there's a political agenda underlying, a lot of this, but it's really unfortunate for school board members to not be given the full picture. And then, like I said, they're the local elected officials. They get to make this policy decision, and they shouldn't be intimidated by, oh, you're going to get sued if you do this or that. Just give them the full picture, let them ask questions and get a good understanding to the best of their ability. And then they get to decide what the policy is going to be. And here you have parents who are very, very clear of what they're asking the policy to be. And you have a board member that introduced a version of it. You have the language, you have the legal analysis. So I guess we'll see what happens at the local level, but this is something the school board can do.
Yes, so let's bring up this model policy right here. So a new model policy, and it's really good. It's nice to have, because as I have learned when talking to school board members, they'll say, well, you're not a lawyer. We need to follow the law. We need to have a legal policy. Well, this provides that for board members. And it is a policy right here intended to protect student privacy and comply with Title IX and the Education Amendments of 1972. And like you said, Title IX and its implementing regulations expressly permit schools to maintain separate toilet, locker room, and shower facilities based upon sex, provided that such facilities are comparable for students of each sex. So, this is going to will/law.org, and I will put links in the comments so that everyone.
If you're able, are you able to click on that link below?
Yes,
I think it's
I will.
Policy
I'll,
42.
Yep, I'll do that. And then, you talk about this now. Here we go.
One thing I want to emphasize is that this is 2 pages long. It is a 1.5 page policy and a half a page of legal analysis. And if I remember correctly, I was watching the live stream of the New Richmond School Board meeting last week, and I think they said it was going to take like 2 months to even get a vote on this. Part of it's just their process, and they think that's the way we do things. But they also wanted this taken under consideration for legal review. This is 2 pages long. And the community is asking for it vigorously. So whether you're in New Richmond or you're somewhere else, I mean, this is worth considering. Will thinks it's lawful. We think it's common sense. We included our legal analysis on there. And I just, like you said, we can talk about the problems all day long. Unfortunately, they're very widespread, but we wanted to help facilitate a solution, something that can be done about it, to protect all students, especially girls.
Yes, that's what I like about this, because we're kind of sounding, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And this is an issue. I do have a question, because how could the Supreme Court cases in which oral arguments had just been heard, They are the two big cases involving Title IX and sex-separated sports. And the question being, can states mandate sex-separated sports, and does that mandate violate the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause? How could the decisions on those two cases affect what's happening in New Richmond, and a case, the foundational case upon which these policies are built, which is in our area, the Seventh Circuit Whitaker decision?
Yeah, that is a fantastic question. I think a lot of it is going to depend on what the decision says and the scope of the decision. I've heard a lot of attorneys following the girls' sports issue who listened to the oral argument, even non-attorneys. I'm guessing you felt this way as well. It seemed like we are going to get a decision that says states may pass laws separating sports by sex and that doing so doesn't violate Title IX. Now,
Yes.
what that looks like, if that's the way the justices decide, what that looks like in an opinion is going to have a lot of bearing on how much impact it has on this related issue of bathroom use, and how broad is their opinion, what's the scope of the opinion, how much analysis, and what are they going to say about Title IX. A lot of it is an it depends kind of answer, but you even have this other recent decision in the Scrimeti case, which was involving a state law, Tennessee, about banning medical transitions for minor children. And here in the Seventh Circuit, actually, so there's this bathroom litigation that was ongoing in the Mukwonago School District. And the Seventh Circuit initially upheld its decision, or the district court's decision, in light of Whitaker. But after Scrimeti was decided, the Seventh Circuit actually came back on its own and said, we would like more legal briefing to consider whether Whitaker should be reconsidered in light of Scrimeti. So I think what's happening at the United States Supreme Court is very, very significant, even though it's not directly on point in terms of the bathroom issue, because these federal appellate courts then are rethinking about this Title IX issue and what does it mean and how is it all related, and is it really a Title IX violation to not let a transgender student use any bathroom that conforms to their gender identity? We would say no, and I think the school board members should be given this full picture is the bottom line. They should know that these things are happening and be able to consider it all and make a decision.
Yes, it seems to me the trajectory of the federal courts and the Supreme Court in particular is in the direction of protecting women and girls, and that Title IX, the definition of Title IX, the definition of sex under Title IX does not include gender identity.
Yeah, and to that point too, I just want to interject really quickly because we have this in one of our amicus briefs. Even Justice Ginsburg has made similar statements about that women should have separate living facilities. So it's not new in the law. You know, these are things that the justices have considered before in other contexts.
And I think that we can look at some other things that are ancillary to this, but related.
Mhm.
We can see that in New York. So this is not, Florida. In New York, the first detransitioner won her case and a $2 million settlement against the doctors or the group that provided her sex rejecting drugs. And I don't know the exact details, so I won't bring that up, but it's the first big win. And on top of it, a trial date has been set for Chloe Cole's her trial, and it's the same thing. She is a detransitioner that is suing, I think, Kaiser Permanente. And then my friend Luca Hine, her trial date has been set. There are others in the works. And if these are successful, I have a very strong feeling that there will be many more detransitioners that sue because they are unhappy with the outcome. They feel that they were not fully informed and that they were incapable of being informed. And there are legal arguments there, but this is changing, I think, even medicine, because now you've seen two major, very respected medical organizations change their advisement about surgeries and drugs for minors in regards to gender identity and transgender students. And they are now not recommending that minors receive what I would say major medical procedures and drugs that have a forever effect. They are irreversible, and that minors just cannot consent to this level of medicine. They're just not capable of it. And when you take that into totality, and Skirmetti, and I think the general, what I listen to the oral arguments as well, and I just think that any school board could at least err on the side of protecting the girls. And then instead of telling the girls, hold off and wait, we'll see how these Supreme Court decisions turn out, tell this to the one boy, hold off and wait. You're going to use these other spaces that we have available, and we're going to protect the girls because, first of all, I think it's the right thing to do, but because it looks as if that's the direction of the law and the mood of, I think, the country.
Yeah, I think something that's coming out of all of that, as a whole, is more willingness to speak up to, I mean, I've never seen a parent reaction like what we're seeing in New Richmond. And it's a small rural community. I mean, it's not far from Minneapolis, but it's way up there in Wisconsin. And these parents, not only are they paying attention, they're engaged, they're standing up for their daughters, some of them daughters and sons, because they're concerned about the policy as a whole and just their children feeling comfortable in school. And when they use the restrooms at school, you and I both have heard stories of girls that unfortunately just don't use the bathroom throughout the school day. I mean, that's not healthy. That's not good. So these parents and their willingness to speak out and kind of be a unit and work together and learn about the law, ask questions, go to the school board meeting. I mean, that I think is going to make a difference. We'll see what happens in New Richmond. I don't know what it's going to do in New Richmond, but just in general, the willingness to speak out about this and stand up for the kids is huge.
Yes, in this school board meeting, in this community, the way that it's just rocked the community has it's giving me a lot of hope, because we just saw hundreds of parents and students holding signs. Not all of them spoke. These are 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old girls. It's really hard for adults to stand up in their own community and speak about a controversial topic. But the fact that they showed up, they were wearing XXXY t-shirts, they were holding signs, colorful signs, and a few spoke like Ella, and they spoke quite eloquently. But they were packed into this room demanding protections in a very respectful way. They were very kind and generous and thoughtful. They didn't want to hurt anybody. They just want what's sensible, what they think is legal, and what's in the best interest of their daughters and the large majority of the girls in the community. And so I was very impressed by this. And I do think that there are a lot of families that think this can't happen in my community. And so they don't ask the questions. So I think that you need to ask your school board, what would happen if there was a boy that had a change over the summer and came to school and said, now I identify as a girl? Are you going to cave? Are you going to do what New Richmond did? Or are you going to come up with just a more common sense solution? And now there's policy and there's a solution. I would think there'd be a lot of school boards that might want to get ahead of this situation and implement this policy just to be on the safe side and to avoid the contention that is happening in the small community of New Richmond.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think parents should ask about what the policy is, or, okay, maybe you don't have a written policy, but what would you do if this happened?
Mhm.
Because you and I both know that the parents in New Richmond were shocked. They did not know that this was a policy, and then their daughters told them, and they were shocked. And they went to the school board and they asked questions, or not the school board, but the administrators within the school, and said, what is going on? Why didn't we know about this? I'm really concerned about my daughter's privacy, etc. And we're told, oh, it's the law. It's the law. And they didn't feel that they were even listened to, a lot of them that I've talked to. And I agree with you. I think school boards should really think about getting ahead of this. If nothing else, just read the policy, look at the law, develop an understanding, because this issue is not going away. What we have, what's called a circuit split right now, meaning different courts in different parts of the country have come to different conclusions on this issue. So it's not going away. I think it's just a matter of time until we have some clarity. We've seen similar decisions involving Title IX that seem to be going in a certain way. And I hope getting back to the original intent of Title IX, which is to create that equal opportunity for women and girls in private spaces, and make sure that their privacy and dignity, really the dignity and privacy of all students, are respected. And girls can't be the ones that are shouldering this burden or being harmed or having an unequal educational experience in the process. That would not be in line with the Title IX law. So I do hope that people will look into this and consider it.
Well, again, I'll bring this up. It's right here, and we'll put the link in the comments. But if you are looking for a solution to this problem, or if you think that your school district could have a similar policy in place, or they could develop one based on their non-discrimination policy, I would highly recommend that you check it out. And there's a whole bunch of other resources that you have for parents and for school board members, right, on your website.
Yes, yes. I would love if you put the link in the comments. Another easy way to find this and similar resources is schoolboardpolicies.org. Has lots of model school board policies and a few other resources. Will also has a parental toolkit for parents. It just came out last fall, so it's pretty up to date on the law. It has the new Mahmood decision in it, an explainer and an opt-out template. So if you search, Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty parental toolkit, maybe we can put that link in there as well.
Yes.
This that should really be a good resource for parents on a variety of issues, whether it's Title IX sex discrimination, Title VI race discrimination, immunization requirements. We really included as a lot of the frequently asked questions that we get, as many as possible. And one thing I will say too about this and any of our model school board policies is school board members, parents, this is a free public resource for you. You should feel free to take it as is, print it out, use it as a resource, or not. This is a version that we think is the best way to draft things and legally sound. But if districts or boards, if they want to make adjustments, talk to their legal counsel, compare to their existing policies, that's okay too. It's intended to be a resource.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's a resource, and you can download. There's tons of information there. Particularly, it's good for someone who is running for school board, thinking about running for school board, or you are a sitting school board member. And you also have an upcoming in April. You are going to have an event for school board members, correct?
Yes, Friday, April 24th. It'll be just west of Milwaukee, for school board members. It's our school board summit. So this is going to be the third time we're hosting it. It's going to be at a new location bigger, hopefully, than the last 2 years. We're very excited, but we're going to it's basically a full day of professional development and networking with fellow school board members. And we get a handful of administrators that come too, some private school leaders. But we'll be talking about things like K-12 legal update, school finance. That one is not necessarily the most exciting, but it's very important for school board members. Screens in classrooms, things like Chromebooks, teacher speech. We saw a lot of teachers say things on social media after the Charlie Kirk assassination. They're public employees. Where is that line when it comes to the First Amendment? So we're trying to, again, hit on some of the topics that were asked about most over the course of the year and put on a full day of professional development and create a space for networking for these board members that want an alternative to what's currently out there for them.
Yes, this is great for Wisconsin school board members. Nationally, Moms for Liberty, if you go to the momsforliberty.org website, we have, we platform a lot of the information that Will has. So we have them there. We work with them a lot, and other national organizations like the Teacher Freedom Alliance, who they have a big national summit coming up in July, I believe, and they are going to talk about similar issues at a national level. Then this is for teachers, parents, school board members. There's also a lot of other groups and information available at momsforliberty.org. So, but the policies that are featured in Will, they can be applicable to any state. You just may have to adjust them to fit in the confines of your state.
Yeah, there's a few that we put Wisconsin real big right at the top, right? Because in education, some of this is specific to state law. And if any of these are Wisconsin law based, we wanted to flag that right up front. But even those should be able to be adjusted based on your particular state law. And I will mention too, our school board summit, it's always great to be there in person because of that networking, the
Yes.
Q&A, the engagement with the speakers. But we will, if you heard a topic that I kind of glossed over and you're like, hey, that sounds national, I'd like to hear more about that. We do record the sessions themselves as well. So they'll be posted online afterwards.
And you have national speakers. You have nationally recognized speakers that speak, because a lot of these issues that we're talking about, they're not just limited to Wisconsin.
Right.
And every time I go to a national event, we're comparing notes, and it's the same kind of woke playbook everywhere, just maybe some minor tweaks depending on where you live. But
Yeah.
it all works, and I love what's going on in another state, and maybe to use a tactic or use a resource that they have in our own state. So it's in the margins, like the differences. A lot of
Yeah.
the stuff we're battling because they work in national organizations and top down, and we're more bottom up fighting back. But that's why I think that I love the resources from Will, and I recommend them to folks all across the United States. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, last year we had our keynote was Catherine Price. She's on the Anxious Generation team with Jonathan Haidt, and she talked about cell phones and social media, and our audience just loved that one.
Yes.
In the past, we've had Robert Pondicio from AEI, Daniel Buck, who's now the Conservative Education Reform Network Director at AEI, and some speakers on civics, like from the Classical Learning Test. It's so exciting. And we've heard so much from the attendees too about how refreshing it is to have an alternative view on these things, but also how nonpartisan it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are surprised, wow, that was really nonpartisan. And some people even say, I wish it was more political, but I don't want it to be, because when you get in there on your school board, hopefully this is for the long term. I don't want you to burn out, and I want you to be able to make change and do things that improve the experience of the students. And I get it, there's some politics to it, but it doesn't have to be that way. So we try to equip you as school board members, parents, whatever, to talk about these things and do it in a way that we think is legal, common sense, reasonable, and good for kids.
Yes, and that's what we need. We need things that are legal, reasonable, common sense, and good for kids. If that was
Yes.
just the motto, I wish we ran our K through 12 education systems. We'd be in such a better place right now. So,
Right, right.
all
Yes.
right. Well, thank you, Cory, for coming on and discussing all of this. I always enjoy talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
That was a great conversation. And it wasn't just about outrage, although what's happening is outrageous. We talked about solutions, and that's what's important. Communities like New Richmond, Wisconsin are speaking up because parents want clarity, fairness, and privacy protections that make sense for their girls. And what we discussed today with Cory Brewer of the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty is something many school districts have been asking for, a legally grounded, practical blueprint. This issue isn't going away. Just like Cory said, every school board in America is confronting it now, or they will be very soon. And the question is, will they respond with secrecy and confusion, sort of like, oh, our hands are tied? Will they blame, or will they opt for transparency and policy rooted in law, fairness, compassion, and common sense? We need common sense too. Parents deserve to know what policies govern their children's schools. This shouldn't be a guessing game, and schools should not be playing a game of whack-a-mole. They need to stand up and be the adults in the situations and protect the kids. There should not be a line of girls waiting to use a single stall bathroom when there are women's bathrooms, women's shower areas made for them. Students deserve privacy and dignity, and school boards deserve clear guidance that protect everyone. So if your district is wrestling with this issue, don't just argue about it. Bring forward a model policy, demand transparency, and show up. Show up, stand up, speak up. Small towns matter, parents matter, and local school boards matter, as do school board members. And Moms for Liberty is committed to supporting school board members and to supporting candidates that stand and fight for parental rights, for our way of life, and will defend children. So our school board members, they still serve communities. Communities shouldn't, they don't serve the boards. And that's something we have to remember. So thank you for joining us. Share this stream, please, and subscribe at our YouTube page at Moms4 Liberty. We've got lots of great content there. Send this to a school board member you know. Send it to some parents that you know, and stay engaged. Because when parents stay informed, engaged, and organized, things change. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day.